Hi guys, I'm Kai, and if you've been following ShoyutheWorld, you know that we love sharing our travels in Japan. But for us, it's more than just capturing just a place, but how it feels. Often we'll see a moment, a spectacular landscape, a sunlit train, or an izakaya scene that feels like it's straight out of a Ghibli movie or J-drama. And that makes us very inspired to recreate a cinematic, almost dreamlike world in what we capture. I've always graded my footage by hand. While I enjoy the process, getting that authentic Ghibli or Netflix first love vibe consistently is a real challenge. And that's what made me so curious about Dehancer. It's a popular plugin for creating exactly this kind of cinematic film-like looks. Okay, so in the spirit of full transparency, the team at Dehancer was kind enough to provide me a license for this plugin about 3 months ago with no strings attached. That really gave me the perfect opportunity to dive deep and see if I could actually create the look I've always wanted. And after all the experimenting, I have to say, I'm genuinely impressed. So today, we are going on that creative quest. We'll use real footage from my 3 main cameras, the Fujifilm X-H2S, DJI Mini 3 Pro, and the Osmo Pocket 3, and we'll see how Dehancer turned these travel memories from this to this. Let's get into it. Okay, before we dive into the note tree, just a quick note. I'm not a professional colorist. This is just my experience as a creator and a workflow that I found works for me. But I'm always learning, so if you have any tips on how I can actually improve my process, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Alright, with that said, let me quickly show you my note tree setup in DaVinci Resolve. It's a simple sandwich style. My color management is at the ends and everything else happens in 2 stages. First correction, then creative. The first stage is all about creating a clean and accurate image. I use 3 simple notes for this: exposure and contrast, white balance, and saturation. Okay, let's prime this first shot from the Fujifilm X-H2S. First, I'll make sure my color management is set up correctly for the f-log2 footage, so we're working in the best possible color space. As Fujifilm's f-log2 footages are Rec 2020, I set the input color space accordingly in my ICST node and input gamma to f-log2. Output color space is DWG, and output gamma is set to DWG intermediate. In my output color space transform node, I convert DWG to Rec 709 in the output color space and gamma 2.4 in output gamma. Now onto the correction notes. For this scene, I'm chasing that warm, nostalgic feeling of a slice of life Japanese drama. I want it to feel like natsukashi na, that feeling of fondly remembering the past. So in my exposure node, I'll first set my pivot, which just helps lock in the midtones. Then I'll adjust the contrast to get a good starting point. Now for white balance, I use a special technique here for the most accurate results. I set the gamma to linear and drop the lumix to 0. Now this is a more advanced method, and I actually learned the theory behind it from a great video by Wakas Ghazi. So if you want a deep dive on that, I'll link it for you in the description. But what this setup lets me do is very precisely tackle any color cast. For example, I'm seeing a slight green tint in the highlights, especially in the curtains, so I'll just use my gain wheel to push a little magenta back in to neutralize it. There. That feels much more natural, I think. Finally, for saturation node, here's a little trick. Instead of boosting the whole image, I like using the HDR wheels to target only the areas that are lacking color. This gives it a much richer and more natural result than just cranking up the single slider. Okay, now that our footage is primed, we can get to the fun part, the creative grade. I'll open up our Dehancer node. First thing I always do here is to select the print stock. I absolutely love Fujifilm 3513 profile because it gives me these beautiful cool shadows and warm highlights while keeping the colors vibrant. So it just works very well for scenes in Japan, I think. So I'll also add a touch of tonal contrast and adjust color density to really dial in that film lab look. Now under Film Developer, I'll give the color boost a little push just to make colors pop a bit more. Next, film compression. This is key to the film look. It helps highlights roll off smoothly instead of clipping like harsh digital footage. It really protects detail in the bright curtains here. In color head, I can fine-tune the overall tones. I'm a fan of green tones in my image, so I'm going to push a little green here, then pull the highlight slightly cooler towards cyan to balance the warm interior. I will also boost a bit more warmth in the shadows. This creates a subtle color contrast that feels very cinematic. And now for the magic ingredients for this look, halation and bloom. Halation gives us that iconic reddish glow around the bright light sources, which is a classic characteristic of a vintage film. And bloom adds an overall softness, almost like a dreamy haze that wraps around the entire image. See this soft glow it creates around the lights? Now the key is to be subtle with it so that nothing looks overdone. It gives the footage that dreamy vibe that really sells the nostalgic character that we're going for. Okay, the main look is there. It's giving Netflix's first love vibes that I love. But here's a final touch to get a dreamy, filmy texture. In a new note, I'm going to use this one slider, mid-tone detail. Okay, so by bringing it down just a little, I can soften the texture in the mid-tones without losing overall sharpness. It's a subtle trick, but it takes away that harsh digital edge just a bit more and makes everything feel more polished and dreamy.
And I hold on, 'cause I hear so 내 안의 모든 멜로디 그대 안에.
Okay, next up, this drone footage from Hokkaido. This is a beautiful snow scene in BA, and I just love the bridge right here. My goal here is to give this a Ghibli-esque look to make it feel soft and dreamlike, almost like a painting. First, a quick technical note on color management. This drone doesn't shoot in D-Log, it's D-Cine-like, which is a Rec 709. So in the input color space, I select Rec 709 for both the color space and gamma, then output to DWG just like before. In the output color space, we convert the footage from DWG back to Rec 709. After that, we are ready to prime our footage in the correction notes. I'll do this real quick. Now jumping into Dehancer, to keep the color profile consistent, I am starting with the same Fujifilm 3513 print as before. But I need to adapt this footage, so since it's bright, high contrast snow scene, I'm making one key change in the film developer. I'm actually reducing the contrast a little to soften that harsh sunlight. Okay, but I'll keep the frame compression setting similar to make sure those bright snow details have a nice, smooth roll-off. And now for the magic that creates that Ghibli look. I'll add some halation to get a subtle red glow on the bridge, and then for the bloom, I'm switching to a 16mm profile. It's a touch softer. See how it gives the entire snowscape the ethereal glow? That's what I'm talking about. It's a huge part of the anime look. Finally, let's look at this delicious Chirashi bowl from the Osmo Pocket 3. Now, this is my everyday travel camera, and the footage coming out from this camera is just incredible. Our goal here is to give this shot that vibrant, appetizing look that we see in J-dramas like Makanai cooking for the Maiko house. Now, a quick technical note, this camera shoots in D-Log M, which needs a slightly different approach to color management. There are two great ways to handle it. My preferred method is to use DJI's official LUT at the very start of my process. Since that LUT converts the footage to a standard Rec 709 space, it means I can now treat it exactly like the drone footage from earlier. This lets me use the same consistent color management for both, which I really like. Alternatively, for a much simpler approach, Dehancer has a fantastic built-in converter that does the same job for you. So I've set this up my way, and with the basic corrections done, the footage is primed and we are ready for the creative grade. Now the original shot is already quite vibrant, so I don't want to overdo it. The first thing that strikes me is that the footage feels a bit too red for my taste, so inside Dehancer, my first step is to balance that out. In the print settings, I'll just use the target white slider to cool down that overpowering warmth a little. I like that it doesn't completely neutralize it, but it just brings it to a nicer spot. Next, in the color head, I'll check Gang to move the main controls together. I'm going to push the image slightly towards blue and green. This continues to soften that red cast and gives the whole scene a cleaner, more cinematic tone. Then I'll just cool the shadows and highlights a tiny bit to refine it. And finally, to get the appetizing J-drama glow, I'll add some custom bloom this time around. It's just a soft glow to lift the highlights on the food, making it look extra delicious without feeling fake. There you go. And there we have it. We've maintained the warmth from the delicious seafood, but also give this simple moment a real cinematic flair. I really like how that turned out. So after trying it on all three cameras for a while now, did I find that J-drama and Ghibli look I was searching for in a plugin? Honestly, I've been pretty blown away with it. It gets incredibly close, and for me, the biggest benefit is a combination of speed and inspiration. It's not just that it's faster than my old creative process, it also gives me a creative launchpad. The sheer variety of film stocks combined with Resolve's powerful color tools really does open up new ways to think about color and mood. So is Dehancer for you? Well, if you're a travel creator like us or just someone who wants to add the analog soul to your work, I think it's a fantastic tool for your creative palette. And on that note, the kind folks at Dehancer are giving you guys a 10% off. So if you decide to try it out, you can use the code SHOYU10 at checkout. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance if you do. But I'd love to know what you think. Which of the three looks was your favorite? The Ghibli landscape, the J-drama moment, or the magical Chirashi bowl? Let us know in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me on this creative quest, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye bye.